Right. Now, do we have another?
We have Corey on the video.
Oh, we've got Corey. Oh, sorry, Corey. I can see you here now. Have you been following this?
Only parts of it. I hope that you guys can both see me and hear me well.
We can certainly see you and hear you well.
Fantastic.
And what I'd like to do is to start off by inviting you to make an opening statement, and then we'll have some questions of you.
Cool. Thank you so much. I think before I start, I just want to say kia ora to everyone here, and thank you so much for allowing me to make a oral submission today. Now, I think the best way to use up my 15 minutes would be to quickly read off my comments and recommendations, and then hopefully have an engaging discussion about the contents of my submission. So I'll go ahead and start. I submit my letter that I sent to all members of Parliament, which clarifies my position to a considerable degree, and I hope you guys have read it as well. That should be used as a supplementary piece to the submission, in which, in summary, it says the following. What we've got here is not a case of freedom of speech at risk. Note that that is actually in quotes, because that's the title of the video that each individual member of the National Party actually put on the Deborah Russell video on the 27th of September. Continuing on, just because a political party cannot use Parliament TV footage in political advertising does not stop them from manufacturing attack ads in general, as there are other media outlets that produce sound and vision of MPs that can be sought and used, in most cases for a cost under a commercial license. In this case, I'm literally saying that if one decides to make an attack ad, well, if a political party decides to do that, they should put their money where their mouth is and pay for that source material. So in that case, the idea of freedom of speech being under attack is ridiculous. Now, political advertising, as worded in the standing orders, is vague, and because of that, it is slightly problematic, since the videos from the National Party are authorized by members of the party, and by questioning how audiences are supposed to react to the material that they are being subjected to, I rationally conclude that they are indeed adverts in favor of their party. Now, after hearing back from one MP, I have a slight concern about the use of the word editing. I understand that you, Mr. Speaker, were most likely trying to enforce part of Appendix D that said that anyone using Parliament TV coverage has to be fair and accurate. And I understand that. I totally agree with it too. However, if this was...
I'll just make it absolutely clear to you by way of interruption, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's all right.
The main point that I was making in that ruling was that people had to have permission. That is a ruling. I did say that the accuracy from my perspective was a trivial breach, and that's why it wasn't referred to the Privileges Committee.
Okay, understood. Thank you for that. However, if it was covering all forms of editing of all and any Parliament TV coverage, this may not be appropriate, as this would apprehend any person wanting to use Parliament TV coverage in research or media pieces, etc. So the recommendations that I made was that in Appendix D, Section 1A needs to be changed to carry the broad idea and concept of party political gain, which I explained further in the supplementary piece or the letter. So I encourage you guys to read it from there. Such a much needed change in wording will ensure that any party political messaging cannot use Parliament TV footage without the permission of members, as there is a case to be made for sorry, hold on. I'm getting my words mixed up here. Ambiguity with the way on how the section is worded as of now. And I suppose the second recommendation doesn't necessarily make any sense anymore, because I have, I think, in my opinion, I think you've clarified your position on that. But for those who don't have the letter, I'll just read it. The use of the word editing needs to be clarified by the Speaker in his ruling, but I think we've already covered that. So in that case, that is my submission. And I would now like to get any questions that people might have.
Clayton Mitchell.
Thank you, Corey. Yeah, really good submission and very clear and audible and concise with your delivery also. My question was about a comment you made about political parties should put their money where their mouth is if using political advertising.
Yes.
Are you directly suggesting that if any political party wants to use footage that they should purchase that through the House? And if that is the case, have you thought of how that might manifest? Because you don't want to stop access from people viewing that footage on the in the way that they're currently doing it now and starting to pay for it for non-political purposes.
I think when I was making that comment, I wasn't directly referring to footage that is provided by the House using Parliament TV footage. I think I was talking more about any footage that might be commercially available from media outlets, specifically in that case.
All right. So you weren't talking about a licensing issue.
I mean, normal copyright type stuff would apply, though, wouldn't it? In those cases, I'm not an expert.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, in some cases, some people would use, clauses of fair dealing under the Copyright Act if they weren't making a political ad as of such. But if you're using copyrighted material for a commercial purpose, which would also include political party advertising, then yes, a license would usually be sought to use it.
Further questions? Chris Pink.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission, sir. I was interested by your suggestion that we use as a test, instead of political advertisements, the notion of political party gain. So just to be clear, are you suggesting that a video would be inappropriate if it were to result in political party gain?
Yeah, and I think if I refer back to the 4-page letter that I sent to all of the MPs, I think I was making a sort of statement that in this case, I was trying to break down and make a rational reason as to why I thought the Deborah Russell video in particular would count as political advertising, which, is in the appendix at the moment. And I came to the conclusion that, yes, there's an authorization notice that is pretty standard for political party advertising. But also, just questioning, like, you watch the clip, and for those who don't understand classics like myself, I mean, I would have to watch that video and say that, okay, this is clearly, like a piece that ridicules the member in question, given that it's got an authorization notice from the opposing party. I'm going to assume that this is indeed a piece that, just makes people question, like, oh, this is pretty dumb. And this is a Labour Party member? Oh, that doesn't sound good. It's pretty reasonable, I think, to think that. So that's why I said that in particular. But if I was to change it, I would actually suggest party political messaging rather than a gain. And that particular wording has only come up in my head maybe the day that I actually made this submission and put it forward.
Thank you, I understand.
Michael.
Thank you for your submission, both the written and oral submission. In your oral comments, you haven't touched too much on the question of editing.
Yes.
It strikes me from your submission that you are someone who's well engaged in new media.
Yes.
And I just want your opinion as to this question, as to whether you think that it's necessarily to have a complete hands-off approach, have no restrictions to prevent potentially misleading content in order for it to be relevant and shareable and useful, which is what we heard from the previous submitter.
Well, I think the previous submitter is actually on the money in terms of identifying the environment that we live in now, in terms of how we engage with people. I think it's just a notion, the fact that we do, the fact that people don't have, like significant rates of retention. I mean, one person, because I'm a filmmaker by trade, and I've been educated in that field. I think if you talk to anyone in the media, they'll tell you about how audience retention rates are falling down. And to say it in a way that isn't using loaded language, I'm essentially saying, people are busy in their lives. People are going to work, they're on the train, they want to watch something small, short, and brief. So in I'm trying to think, like I think
I
my
guess-
problem. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So I guess just to get to the point, I'll get you small, brief to the point.
Yeah.
But within that, do you think it's okay for footage to be manipulated to be potentially misleading, or do you think there should be some controls over that?
What would those controls be would be my question, because one would have to like seek approval for cuts to be made is the only way that I'm thinking about it. And for someone who might make a TV documentary or might even like be making a news report, sometimes the response times to, you know, get approval from one side to another is just, it's not going to happen. So I think one might have to jump in the water and just take the risk. And then if there are any problems, like if somebody says, hey, I see that you've like purposely misled the public by having me say this when really I meant that, by the use of editing, then I think that case needs to be brought forward by that stage. So I'm not necessarily of the opinion that, there needs to be a prior approval is what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara Courage.
Yeah, I guess you made the comment before, and I'll just rephrase, hopefully using your words, but you said, you know, the intent was around ridiculing somebody and, you know,
Yes.
make fun of whatever. Can you imagine any of these types of clips made by a party on the other side of the house that, you know, and I mean, that is the intent generally, and we've had a bit of a discussion today about intent. I mean,
Yes.
is there any argument from your perspective about the intent of why either party or any party would want to do this?
Would want to do what in particular, sorry?
Oh, well, just, I mean, you're not going to put something up that, you know, I'll be serious. Every party in here would not be putting something up that showed another party in a particularly good light. So, you know.
No, well, I mean, I'd agree with that. I think, you know, that there is that sort of like contest of ideas that, you know, you're trying to win people over to your side. So, I mean, I understand that argument, but I'm just trying to think here.
Yeah, the question obviously we're talking about, is it misleading? But I mean, the intent, I think we've got to the point today. Do you agree the intent of what we're trying to do is we're all trying to, you know, score something for our side over the other side?
Yes, I think it matters what the intention is. Absolutely. But if one is going to achieve that by intentionally misleading the public through manipulative edits, then that too is quite problematic.
Thank you.
Can I, because you're the one example we've got of a relatively young person
Okay.
making submissions today.
Yes.
Can I just ask you a bit of almost like a political question? I have worked under the assumption, just from research that I've seen in the past, political party research that I've seen in the past, that that MMP has made a difference, and it makes it different from the American or the Australian situation in particular. And where in what it used to be like for much of my political experience is that if one party attacked and was successful, the other party went down and that party went up. The impression and what I think is a perceived wisdom now is that there is a danger when a party is being seen to be negative and attacking. They might be successful in bringing the other party down, but it doesn't mean that they necessarily get the results of it themselves. And it goes to third parties because some people don't like it, and especially young people don't like negativity. Can you any comment on that?
Absolutely. I just want to say, like, MMP is great, like hands down. It's like the best thing to democracy since sliced bread. But I just also have to state for the fact, I don't think any of us want to see a future where attack ads become a reality in this country. I believe, you know, there's one country in particular, and I think we've all got it in mind, that leads the world in this sort of stuff. I just don't think it engages people well. I don't think it contributes anything of value. and it's kind of low level, low brow stuff. So if anything, I'd make the play to everyone here today. If you want to make an attack ad, just don't. Thank you.
Right. No further questions. Right.
Cool. Well,
Can I, Corey, just say thank you very much, for your submission, and I think we're going to go in way of contrast. A young filmmaker followed by the oldest users of videos on a continuous basis in New Zealand.
cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Not oldest personally.
Now,